When making indie games, you're going to make mistakes, from coding to animation and even marketing. But what if I told you there are 5 mistakes that most indie game developers make before they even begin developing their game? And in this video, we're going to dive into each of these mistakes so that you, dear viewer, can avoid them when you begin your game dev journey. I wish I knew these things when I started. But anyway, let's get into it. Let's start with one of the most common mistakes, overscoping. This is one I really struggled with when I started. You have a cool game idea that you want to make. Maybe it's an open world action RPG with a bunch of systems and voice acting with cinematic cutscenes. It's 40 hours long, it sounds amazing, but you're doing this by yourself on a shoestring budget. That's not to say making a game like that is impossible. You'll probably blow off your life savings in the process, but you gotta get more realistic when you're a new developer. Games like these usually have a big team and tons of money behind them, and they're still not that great, to be honest. And it's not recommended to make a project like that as your first one or even your second game. Now, what if you're someone like me who's not as passionate about making small games? I would suggest making a smaller version of a game you want. Instead of 40 hours, make it 10 to 12 or even 12 to 15. People don't even like long games like that anymore. Focus on finishing your game. That is the true goal, because most developers don't finish a project, and even more, don't start. Take it from me. I ended up canceling tons of projects because of this mindset. I thought I was gonna make something that everybody was gonna love, and it was gonna be a huge hit, and I was gonna make tons of money, and I was gonna get all this press. Yeah, nah, buddy. The second mistake new devs make is that they are motivated by money. We all wanna make money. We all love the moolah, the dinero. Here's the hard truth. Most indie devs do not make a return of investment upon release. This is very discouraging, and it's a harsh reality that crushes a developer's dreams. This is why it's important that you make games for the thrill of it. When you create something, you're taking a risk. Anything can happen. You could flop, or you can make a hit. Most people do not make a hit. They go years without making one, and that's okay. Game devs who continue to make games for the love of it aren't thinking about the money. They enjoy what they do. That's why they're still making games. Going into this space thinking that making games is some golden ticket to a life of luxury is just pure delusion. Many developers who think this way end up quitting and start doing something else. You also have to keep in mind that just because people buy your game doesn't mean they'll keep it. Refunds happen quickly on Steam, especially if people lose interest in your game. The third mistake is to avoid prioritizing graphics over gameplay. I grew up in an era where PlayStation 1 graphics were groundbreaking. Showing my age here. I remember being in school and my friends saying a game was good because it had good graphics. It was always about how it looked and not the actual quality of the product. You don't want to think like this as a game developer. Just because they have a pretty smile doesn't mean they have a pretty soul. That's your dating lesson for the day. I see this in the indie manga space too, which I'm also a part of. Check out my video game turned manga series, Eternity's End, available on my website, gstormgo.com. You can also watch my video on how I turned my game into a manga series read by thousands of people across the world. People think great art equals great story. This is not the case. The same principle applies to video games. A game could look stunning, but is it fun? Will people play it until the end? Yes, a game's graphics can help with marketing and grabbing people's attention, but at the end of the day, the priority should be the gameplay. What are the mechanics? If it's a story-driven game, what's the story about? Now, if I were to list game dev priorities from most important to least important, I would say the mechanics are the most important, followed by the story, and then the graphics. Let me know in the comments what you think. Now, before we dive into the remaining mistakes, I just want to remind you all to subscribe to me, G-Storm Entertainment, as I use this channel to talk about both my indie game dev journey and my indie manga journey. You can also play my mobile game, Diego Lionheart Mango Madness, free to download on both Apple and Android devices. Now, back to the video. Mistake numero cuatro is trying to learn everything at once. When you're a game dev, especially a solo one, you have to wear many hats: programmer, artist, writer, animator, the list goes on, and it can be overwhelming. But one thing I've learned is that trying to teach yourself all these things at once is a one-way ticket to burnout and never getting anything made. The problems in game dev reveal themselves to you when you're making your game. That's when you have to put on your thinking cap and figure out how to solve the problem. That's part of the job. It's annoying, but this is what we do. More importantly, while you're working on your game, it's a good idea to see which elements of game development you're good at versus where you need to improve. Eventually, you will get the gist of how everything should operate, and that is a valuable skill to have. Before we get into the final mistake, I do have one honorable mention, and it has haunted me for years, and that's over planning. Do not do it. I'm telling you, it's a trap. I'm not joking when I say it took me years to plan and attempt game projects because I tried to plan everything out before I even began. Like, what was I thinking, bro? You see, I like to have a set schedule as to what I'm doing. I'm a busy guy. I like to have a plan that is fully mapped out and ready to be executed. But I had to learn that it does not work this way in game development. Projects always change over time. Something you might want to include might not make it into the final product, which happens just about all the time. It's no use trying to have some well mapped out plan that has a clear beginning and end. Like, yeah, have a plan, but don't go overboard. Leave some room in that noggin of yours for unexpected roadblocks because they're gonna happen. Okay guys, the last mistake I want you guys to avoid is underestimating the time of development. Games always, and I mean always, take longer than they should. This is also why I brought up over planning, because you really have no real clue when your game will be done. This is how it is for many new creative projects. My game, Diego Lionheart Mango Madness, was supposed to take me about a month to finish. I was like, yeah, okay, I can do this. It's a month. I can knock this out in a month, right? Except it ended up being 4. You can estimate how long it'll take, but as I said in my Why 99% of Indie Manga Creators Fail video, which you should check out if you want to make manga, don't make promises you can't deliver. It's not wise to tell your audience out the gate that your game is going to come out next month or next year, because development can take longer than that. You might run into a roadblock, whether in your personal life or on your project. Things happen. Game development can be hard. It comes with a lot of challenges that you're either not ready for or you don't expect. But if you can learn to avoid these mistakes, you can make game development way easier. That's going to be it for this video. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with my list. Also, what are some other mistakes that you think indie game developers make? Be sure you hit that like button on the way out, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and hit that bell to stay notified on the latest updates of all G-Storm content. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll be talking to you real soon. Peace.